Reconsidering the wedding, I felt it would be best to have another conversation. In retrospect, I'm really happy I took that choice. My daughter told me that Addison had always been kind to her prior to the engagement. But after that, something had changed. My daughter clarified that she hadn't brought it up sooner because she didn't want to spoil my happiness with Addison after witnessing it. Addison, however, had been acting strangely toward her after the engagement. Addison behaved completely differently when I wasn't there whenever she came to visit. My custody agreement states that I get to spend half the month with my daughter, which is a substantial amount of time. When I got home from work, my daughter claimed that Addison would activate the charm, but she ignored her the rest of the time. Prior to the engagement, this wasn't the case. It was unexpected and disheartening to hear this. My daughter also revealed that she thought Addison no longer wanted her in her life when she learned that he intended a wedding without children. She believed it wouldn't matter, so she didn't even try to go. I felt so bad about myself for letting Addison convince me not to invite my own kid to my wedding. I made the decision to call off the wedding at that point. I talked to Addison the day before the wedding. After that, I didn't bother returning home. Addison called me multiple times, but I didn't answer. I told my parents to inform her that I would meet her on the wedding day because I knew she would get in touch with them next. I stayed with my daughter all day instead of returning home. By the end of the day, we both felt much better. I spent the night at a hotel after dropping her off at her mother's house. I arrived at my parents' house the following morning, exactly 1 hour before the ceremony was set to start. A few people had already arrived when I got there, including Addison's dad and both of her sisters, Kate and Amelia. Naturally, all 6 of their children were present, along with Addison's 2 children, who were all under 12 and running around the area. Addison hurried to meet me at the door as soon as she noticed me. She started by saying that Kate and Amelia couldn't leave their children behind, despite her having informed them that the wedding was child-free. She went on to say that her parents thought it would be odd if she married without her own children being there. I could tell she thought I was crazy because she was making up all these absurd excuses. However, I remained silent until she had finished speaking. Then she began asking me strange questions like where I had been the night before and why I was dressed the way I was. I simply got out my phone, showed her a screenshot of the email that Kate had inadvertently sent to our joint wedding email account, and laughed in her face. That was sufficient to silence her. She realized right away that she had been apprehended and that she couldn't get away with it by talking. It was already too late when she began to apologize. I informed her that I had spent the day before with my daughter and discovered that she had been treating my daughter differently for the past few months, ever since we became engaged. I didn't even want an explanation or an answer at this point. I simply informed her that we were done. She clearly did not value my daughter, therefore I made it clear that I would not marry her. I had never treated her children any differently than I had my own, so it was very painful. However, I didn't believe it was a good idea for us to get married because it was obvious that she didn't really value my family or me. I spoke up and didn't wait for her to answer. I simply left. I didn't turn around even though she was shouting for me. I had nothing better to do, so I got into my car, drove to a hotel, and napped for a long time. My phone was inundated with texts when I got up at lunchtime. Addison's family was unhappy, and everyone who had been invited to the wedding was perplexed. However, I was unable to care. I gave my friends and family a quick rundown of the circumstances and then let it go. I visited my daughter later. I informed her that I intended to spend more time with her and that I had canceled the wedding. I acknowledged that, without even recognizing it, we had begun to drift apart during the previous few months. She used to come to me right away if she had a problem with someone, so I realized something was wrong. She hadn't spoken, though, with Addison. At least we were able to work things out even if we both were a little emotional. Speaking of Addison, that's where I've been having trouble. 5 days have passed since the day we were meant to tie the knot, and by now, almost everyone is aware of the reason I called off the wedding. Her dishonesty was just as much of a factor as the way she treated my daughter. Being dishonest is, in my opinion, a major deal breaker in any relationship. I've already been cheated on twice, and I can tell you that it always begins with a simple fib. She believed that she could get away with telling such a large falsehood. I don't believe that canceling the wedding at the last minute was incorrect on my part. Yes, it was sudden and rude, but considering that she had intended to surprise me with the kids at the last minute, I believe it was reasonable. Her family feels I'm being harsh and is angry that I didn't offer her an opportunity to clarify. Addison has been contacting me constantly, as has the rest of her family. Addison's only justification is that she had good reason to invite my kid, but she couldn't beg me not come. She also finds it quite offensive that I didn't think our relationship needed at least a chat before terminating it in that manner, even after we had been together for so long. She has stated that she will discuss her reasons in person, but she has not disclosed them. How she could possibly defend her decision to not invite my daughter to our wedding is beyond me. To the best of my knowledge, she and my daughter have never had any problems together. I still believe like I ought to have talked to her first though. I've been feeling guilty for the past few days, and I'm not sure why. I believe that rather than acting as though everything was all right up until the last minute, I ought to have been honest with her. I should have gone right home from work and addressed her the day I learned what she was planned. I could have prevented a lot of the drama that is going on now if I had done that. I've been bothered by the fact that I feel like a bit of a jerk for not handling things better. Am I the jerk for abruptly calling off the wedding and not talking to my fiancé? First update. 3 days have passed since I posted, and I'm still at the motel. I contacted Addison today and informed her that she needed to vacate the house right now. Since it was my house before she moved in, I believe it is only right that she must depart now that we are done. She has till the end of the month, in my opinion, to find a place. Since sleeping in a hotel isn't a practical long-term solution, I intend to crash with a buddy until then. I feel much better about my choice aside from that. My friends have encouraged me that, in the end, I made the decision to become a father because it is what I value most. I don't believe I have to apologize for putting my daughter first. People can avoid me if they have an issue with that. I don't give a damn about Addison's motivations. I don't think I need to hear them at all if she can't send me an explanation. I'm not interested in seeing her at the moment. Since it's obvious that her parents and sister were aware of her scheme the entire time and kept quiet about it, I've also barred them. I thought I got along well with her family, so this is disappointing. Before everything that transpired, I firmly believed that I had become a member of their family. I hadn't replied to Addison much up until last night, but I did advise her to begin searching for a new residence. I also informed her that she may text me to explain why she didn't want my kid to attend the wedding. But I also made it apparent that there was no turning back once the harm had been done. She has not responded to that message. I apologize to those who inquire, but I have no idea why she would be acting in such a different way around my kid. Since I'm genuinely interested, I've talked to my daughter extensively, but she too doesn't know. My daughter was as perplexed as I was when I showed her the messages and we talked about Addison's actions. She informed me that she was surprised when Addison began acting differently around her. In the early days following the engagement, my daughter even made an attempt to patch things up, but Addison remained aloof and uninterested in her attempts. Addison appears to be the issue here, based on what I've heard. Although I am aware that many children struggle to understand their parents' separation, my daughter is not one of those children, and she has no justification for lying about Addison. To begin with, I was never married to her mother. We dated for 2 years before splitting up when she was 3 years old. She hardly recalls our time together. For the last 5 years, my ex has also been married. I have no doubt that my daughter was not at all offended by my choice to move on and wed Addison. Until recently, they had a nice connection. I'm not claiming my kid is flawless, even though she may be in my opinion, but I do know she doesn't lie, especially when it comes to something like this. She is aware of how much I respect openness and truthfulness in my loved ones. When she claims that Addison began acting differently, I genuinely believe her. Nevertheless, I doubt Addison will reveal her motivations. I texted her a few hours ago, and she hasn't responded yet. She probably hasn't received my message because she works from home and must be on her phone all the time for her job. She always responds right away, so I'm certain she's ignoring me. However, it makes no difference. All I want is for her to leave my home so I may resume my comfortable life. I have to go back to work in a few days, and staying in this motel is strange. Second update. 3 days have passed since I sent Addison a text. She did respond earlier today. She claimed to understand why I didn't want to see her face to face, but she demanded that we do so she could give me an explanation for why she didn't want my daughter to attend the wedding. Despite the fact that we are no longer together, she said she didn't want me to misinterpret her. Addison said that her reasons were legitimate and that she didn't want me to think she was the villain. She said she didn't want to hurt me, so she lied. That reasoning was absurd because she still caused me pain. I responded in less than 30 minutes, being very clear that I would not be speaking with her face to face. Anything she said had to be sent via text, and that was the end of it. She said it was around an hour ago. She stated that something that occurred at the engagement party was the reason she didn't want my daughter to attend the wedding. Regretfully, my daughter wasn't feeling well on the day of the engagement celebration. I already knew she wouldn't be able to come when it was my turn to keep her for the month. Despite feeling ill, she insisted on going even though I told her she could stay in her room. She desired to join in the festivities. She went back upstairs to relax after spending a few minutes downstairs toasting with everyone. Although some people inquired about